we've got boob armor. It's the Wilk Report. I'm Michael Wilk, coming to you from Cleveland, Ohio. And yes, as you can see, I'm reviewing The Mandalorian Season 2, Episodes 1 through 3, since I missed the first two, because, what can I say, life gets in the way. But yeah, as you can see, I'm growing my beard out for No Shave November, trying to see how far I can take it. I really don't grow facial hair very well, as you can see, especially on my right side, because it got like these very faint bare patches, and it comes in at the jawline, so it just doesn't look good. So I've never actually grown my full beard out. I've had my mustache and goatee, but never the full thing. So we'll see how far I can go by the end of the month. I'm going to shave most of it off, if not all of it, on December 1st. Might or might not do a video on that. We'll see. But let's go ahead and get to the episode, because we've got some teasers from episode 1. And I'm not wearing my glasses, by the way, because the reflection from the light just keeps getting all weird. So once I figure out the new lighting, because I got some newer ring lights that I thought would be pretty good, but it turns out trying to fiddle with them to get the best picture quality is turning out to be trickier than I thought. So we'll see how that turns out, but let me go ahead and get to this. So yeah, episode 1 teases the return of Boba Fett. So the Mandalorian is looking for the child's order, like the Jedi Order, and is put onto Tatooine as a possible location. I mean, he reestablishes himself as a badass. The contact he went to go and get info from was running this fighting ring using Gamorreans as the combatants, and tries to basically attack him to steal his Beskar armor. And that's going to become a running theme within the series, I think, because the Beskar is obviously, very rare and expensive metal. So he goes to find a Mandalorian on Tatooine, where rumors have been heard, and it turns out it's someone wearing Boba Fett's armor, but he's obviously not Boba Fett. Instead, he's a town sheriff who bought parts of Boba Fett's armor from some Jawas who presumably recovered it in the desert 5 years prior, and have been riding around with it ever since, looking to sell it. And this guy was running from some Imperials, or no, not Imperials, from some pirates who took over after the Imperials hightailed it out of there. And he ran. He was dying of thirst. He got picked up by Jawas. He bought the armor off of them and went back and took care of things and became the sheriff. So you can see he's sporting the armor. Now Mando obviously wants to bring this back because it's it doesn't belong to him, and the guy's willing to trade it in return for helping destroy a crate dragon that's been menacing the town and killing people and livestock every now and then. And they're forced to team up with some Tusken Raiders, which doesn't really sit well with them because they keep attacking, but that they have no choice. I mean, the Tusken Raiders and the townspeople have the same enemy in the crate dragon. They all want it dead, and so everything works out, and the rest is history. So then, by the end of the episode, though, we get a tease as Mando is flying off in the Razor Crest, and it turns out this may be Boba Fett. Maybe. I mean, he's devoid of any hair and he's heavily scarred, but, again, this is really kind of teasing the return of Boba Fett, because if you remember in Season 1, with the killed assassin, someone with boots with a clink that are similar to Boba Fett's and a cape suggesting that it belongs to him, walked up to the body and started to bend down to take a look. So we're looking at stuff that's like really kind of teasing a return and maybe a confrontation we'll see. But then, season 2, episode 3, called The Heiress, shows us, and, let me go ahead and bring up the article because yeah, we've got boob armor, which, yeah, if you take a look at the right hand corner here, I've got a link to Shadiversity's videos on boob armor, and it's actually pretty fascinating. But people for some reason are making a big deal out of this and calling it sexist. Honestly, I think you got a serious problem if you're focused on this, and you need to get a life, because women down in the Middle Ages, there have been women who fought in battle. Joan of Arc, for example, wore armor that was probably tailored to fit her because, honestly, I mean, she's a woman, she's got boobs, and you want to protect them. And the types of bulged metal cuirass from the 15th century, doesn't always really fit everyone. So yeah, you would have custom-made armor. It could be pretty expensive to make, but it could be done, and it's actually pretty practical. In fact, actually, let me return to the image here. It's actually done pretty well. The armor is made to fit the actresses, obviously. This woman, the redhead on the right, is Bo-Katan. Yes, none other than Bo-Katan from the Clone Wars. So, we're seeing a whole bunch of canonical or semi-canonical characters from the Clone Wars being brought in, and really kind of hinting that maybe the Mandalorian is set in the actual Star Wars universe and not in the Disney Star Wars universe, even though it's produced by Disney. Yeah. But, so we get episode 3 after episode 2, which is a filler episode. There's Frog Woman on Tatooine, has to get her eggs to the planet Trask, and that's like within the same star system or in the next star system over, and she books passage on the Razor Crest in return for leading the Mandalorian to some more Mandalorians who've been spotted on Trask. Her husband has to fertilize her eggs, which she carries in this vat on her that's strapped to her back, and the Yoda baby, or is it's a running gag in the episode, the passenger, because he keeps trying to eat the eggs, and he does manage to eat several, but it just kind of falls flat. I mean, I know they were trying to make a joke out of it for comic relief to break tension, but it really does not make the Yoda baby look good. I mean, first of all, it basically says that he thinks with his stomach all the time, and he doesn't even really use his powers anymore in this season. I don't know if maybe he just decides he doesn't feel like it and he wants to just eat everything that moves, but his appetite causes some major problems at several points in the episode. And again, the reason why this doesn't sit well with me, there was a short story I read years ago when I was still in high school. It was either in high school or maybe grade school. But it was a science fiction short story that involved a human and a lobster-descended alien trapped aboard a passenger ship that had suffered an accident. They were the only two survivors, and there was only enough food available for really one person to make it to their destination, and the refrigeration units really were not all that great. So, there was enough, that they had to make a choice as human and the lobster-descended alien. They would basically have to decide, who's going to live and who's going to get eaten. And the ship's computer agrees to mediate a game because neither one of them is a very fit example of the species. So they have this game. It's kind of reminiscent of the game of riddles that Gollum and Bilbo Baggins play in The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. But, at any rate, the computer rules in the human's favor and zaps the lobster alien, and he gets eaten, but it transpires later that the computer was programmed by a member of the lobster alien species who hates his own kind, and programmed the computer on the ship to have a bias against any of members of his own species. So, the human is convicted of cannibalism, which in galactic terms is defined as consuming a member of another sentient species. And that's kind of what the Yoda baby does, because, these eggs are the last of this woman's bloodline. In fact, she hijacks the Forlum android to use its vocal synthesizers to kind of plead with the Mandalorian, because they've crash landed on this ice planet after a couple of Rebel or New Republic starfighters forced it to crash land en route to the planet Trask. And he's ready to look, mission's over, sorry, but, we got to repair the ship first, and, that means you might not get your eggs to your husband on time to fertilize them. But this woman says, hey, look, this is the last of my bloodline here. If I don't get to this planet, then that's the end of my family, my entire family, my entire line. So that raises the stakes for the episodes. And of course, Yoda baby gets them in trouble with these giant spider-looking aliens that have inhabited this cave that they've taken refuge in. And of course, the Razor Crest is pretty much totaled at this point. It's barely space-worthy. In fact, as they blast off into episode 3, really it's only the cockpit that is left intact, and they barely make it to the planet Trask, where the Frog Woman reunites with her husband with her remaining eggs, and so they exit stage left. And then after another betrayal where Mon Calamari and some squid-headed aliens, again, pulled from Empire Strikes Back. If you remember the squid-headed bounty hunter that was called up. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the name of it, but he was nicknamed Squidhead when the toy lines came out back in the 80s. So he and his ship crew, they're taking the Mandalorian and the Yoda baby on a sea voyage, ostensibly to find some more Mandalorians, but they ambush him to try and steal his Beskar armor, which really becomes a running theme, I think, within the season, because now twice we've had people, really kind of decide, we're going to double cross you and trying to steal your armor bit. And, you don't want to overuse that, because it can become too much of a running gag, or in this case, a running theme. And honestly, you don't want to constantly be on having that as the only reason why people are after you, because before, in season 1 he was a fugitive from the bounty hunters guild and had people after him, but now people are just after him for his armor, and it's like, it's not really a compelling reason to keep going after him. So, but the writers have kind of pigeonholed themselves into a corner, because what other reason are they going to have for him being in this situation where he's constantly under attack from people who want to either kill him or kill the Yoda baby and steal his armor. But then there's a bunch of Mandalorians who come to his rescue, and this is where we get some characters from the Clone Wars. Bo-Katan, who is back and trying to steal some weapons from some Imperial remnants on an Imperial cruiser. And then we get to our article here, which let me go ahead and call that up, because this is really interesting because of all the Easter eggs that have been dropped. So, yeah, you've got the Mandalorian here. The Heiress introduces several characters from other parts of the Star Wars saga to the Mandalorian, including 2 from the Clone Wars. That'll make fans jump in excitement. Din Djarin also meets another group of Mandalorians, and one that's quite different from the one that the group that raised him, because if you remember in season 1, it was set up that the Mandalorians are not allowed to remove their helmets in front of anyone, only to like maybe your wife and kids, because they're your nuclear family. You can't help but expose yourself to them because you live with them. But that's really the only people you can expose yourself to. So, they take their helmets off, and he's like, "Oh, you're not Mandalorians. This isn't the way." And it turns out that Bo-Katan and her people, they're part of like the former ruling faction on Mandalore, and they're trying to reclaim their homeworld. But they don't follow quite the same traditions as a tribe that raised the Mandalorian, because Bo-Katan really kind of dismisses them as this cult that is obsessed with maintaining the ancient traditions, unchanged, and her group is more modern and kind of recognizes that yeah, you really can't remain so tied to the ancient ways that you end up hurting yourself. You've got to adapt, and obviously, there's in any culture, you're not going to have the whole thing be homogenous. There's going to be different factions, different belief systems within a subgroup. Take all the denominations of Christianity or Islam or Judaism, or Hinduism. There's all sorts of denominations within a given religion, and this is no different. So, it makes sense. So, they have to team up to try and steal these weapons so they can take back the planet Mandalore, which apparently was not quite as destroyed by the Empire as previously believed. And I won't spoil the ending for you, but it's a really well written episode. I like the season so far. It's again, just like the first season, it's a slow build up, and I think that's not a bad thing. I mean, too often there's this tendency to favor like really fast pacing and not giving the audience time to really kind of take a pause and digest what you've been watching and think it over. In fact, I was reading something on Facebook really that someone had linked I think it was Collider article kind of dissing Shin Godzilla compared to the legendary Godzilla movies produced here in the United States. And it's like, honestly, it's kind of like comparing Legendary's McDonald's cheeseburger to Shin Godzilla's, broiled steak. There's just no comparison, because with Shin Godzilla, you actually had slower pacing because it's Japanese, and outside the United States, you are actually encouraged to slow down a bit, think about what's going on, and kind of turn the story over in your head when you get these breaks in it. Doesn't always work within the story, but it's slower paced for a reason. And with the American movies and TV shows now, there tends to be like this, like get to the next beat like quick, and don't let your audience have any time to think about what's happening, because if the audience did stop to think about what's happening, they would realize just how badly written your story is. So, you take your pick as to which style of storytelling you prefer. I prefer where you actually get to enjoy the show and really kind of be able to slow down a bit, think about what you've seen, catch all the Easter eggs that are being thrown your way. It's really good writing here. And I know some people like Gary Beekler over at Neurotic and Geeks and Gamers. Jeremy hates the Yoda baby. I don't know why. I mean, it's a puppet. But, they dismiss it as a kid's show, and it's really not. It's a family show. And I think people need to realize that. It's for the whole family. There's stuff for the kids in there, obviously, but there's also stuff for people like us in our age bracket who grew up with Star Wars and are now adults and passing that love on to our kids. So I don't know why people are complaining about it. Just enjoy the show, because it's actually a lot better than anything shat out under Kathleen Kennedy's watch. So take that as you will. But let me go back to the article here real quick. Yeah, so Bo-Katan cries, or Crizzy, or however you pronounce that. But yeah, so Bo-Katan may as well have walked right out of Star Wars: The Clone Wars and Rebels, as Battlestar Galactica star Katie Sackhoff finally makes her Star Wars live-action debut. Because if you remember, Katie Sackhoff was the she was in the Battlestar Galactica remake, which unfortunately was pure shit. Rebooted Starbuck as a woman, and it's just got all dark and dystopian, and just a kind of storytelling that Jar Jar Abrams and his ilk like, but which anyone with a brain rightly recognizes as just pure bullshit. So just intended to inject a lot of nihilism and dark and gritty storytelling, and the sort of everyone's at each other's throats kind of backstabbing stuff that just would never happen on board a spacefaring vessel, because by necessity you can't have any serious lasting conflict among the crew members, because it wouldn't be able to function. And especially if you're the last of your people and you're trying to make it to the other side of the galaxy, where you hope to be safe from these killer robots that are trying to end you, do you really want to be at each other's throats all the time? No. I mean, come on. So, she kind of comes from that nonsense TV show. A lot of sex and violence and really bad storytelling going on there. But she's back here and playing Bo-Katan and actually kind of pulling it off. Again, we're seeing Mando forced to team up with people he ordinarily wouldn't team up with in order to achieve a particular end, because he wants to find people who know about the Jedi and where he can find them, so he can drop this kid off with them. Although, I'm pretty sure by the end of the season, things might not work out that way. Because the show is a Mandalorian, but it's also set him up as kind of like the surrogate father to this foundling that he's found himself having to take care of. And the way the season 1 story arc ended, very much came full circle with his history, because he was adopted by a Mandalorian tribe on his homeworld after it had been slaughtered by remnants of the Empire, the Empire at the time, because it was still in existence back then. But that's it just kind of brought it full circle. So so now we're starting over, and he's got this quest to deliver the Yoda baby, but he's going to have a lot of twists and turns along the way, maybe some distractions. I, for one, am looking forward to seeing more hints of Boba Fett possibly returning. We've got Gina Carano's character, Cara Dune, returning this season. I'm looking forward to that. I just like this show. I don't like to be one of those, constantly negative people who just is constantly ranting and railing about TV shows and movies he hates, because why? I'm going to do that. Just look at my Doctor Who video from last time. And because Chris Chibnall has just destroyed a show that I used to love watching, even under Stephen Moffat's tenure, which I hated with a passion. But at least Moffat had his moments. But with Chibnall, it's just, oh my God, dude. But I don't like having to constantly bitch and moan about this stuff. So I do like watching shows like this where I actually look forward to the next episode, and I'm riveted to my seat watching. And I look forward to seeing Cobra Kai season 3. If it manages to get finished in COVID, and also Orville season 3. Well, hopefully that'll start production back up soon, because I want to see where things go. So yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much all I've got for this episode. I'm just gonna link to this stuff in the right here in the top right hand corner. But yeah, what do you think about this episode, though? What do you think about the season so far? Let me know. I want to hear from you. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to receive notifications whenever we upload new content. Like this video, share it. If you want to help support the channel, keep the lights on, help us bring you more content, head over to our Patreon or our Ko-fi page. We can't do this without you. Until next time, this is Michael Wilk for The Wilk Report saying take care. Good night. I'm out.